evening, everybody. Welcome to the Sports Exchange. And you're going to see us in a different way because we have the magical producer here, Candy Ebling. We'll get to her in a moment. But meanwhile, glad to have you with us tonight. Have a great show lined up. And a lot of you folks that can see Alabama Crimson Slide, that's what it is, not tied. So you don't have to go get an eye exam anytime soon. So anyways, let me go over the basic idea of what we're going to talk about. But before I do that, though, I'm going to let everybody know that the Sports Exchange is being broadcast around the world. The audio version of the Sports Exchange can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcasts. Please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune. We're striving for more subscribers. Please also comment, like, and share the broadcast. Want to be a guest? No problem. Participate in the chat room. We've had a very busy chat room all week, and we expect no different tonight. Send your topic ideas, southfloridatribune@gmail.com. If you want to advertise cost efficiently, give me a call, 954-304-4941. If I'm not talking too fast, don't worry about it. Just replay the show again, and then you'll get it 2 or 3 times, whatever. Okay? Or maybe we'll figure out something called a timestamp, and we'll just put that on there. Just kidding with you. I'm trying to get used to this new production terminology that I know literally absolutely nothing about. So once again, we broadcast live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, or X, whatever they call it. Website, www.southfloridatribune.com, Twitter/X at Tribune South. Candy Ebling is behind the scenes. She's a jack of all trades. Let me tell you, works on the website, you name it. Without her, we'd be in, as my old friend Andy Lascano would say, deep trouble. So, deep. Yeah, those are my echoes of the deep, folks. There you go. Also, my book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. Also want to make an announcement that we have joined NGBN TV. Will launch on Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire, and mobile devices. It will be in 85% of the homes in the United States and Canada and 4.1 billion mobile devices. If anybody can count the 4.1 billion, you can have I'll provide you with 6 months of free broadcast, but you have to do it uninterrupted. Okay. So I have a feeling that's probably a bet I may not have to pay off, but nevertheless, because of certain company things, we have to make sure you know it all. All right, now we'll introduce the crew, and we have George Eichhorn at the top. And welcome back, George.
Good to see you guys. Happy New Year, everybody.
Glad to have you, George. Okay, next we have JB Ellis, the guy who is a mastermind behind Sideline Sports, as well as a big-time partner with us. Welcome back, Joe.
Welcome, guys. Happy New Year. Glad to be here. Another great week.
You bet. And we got the pundit himself, Jacob Christner. If he says anything stupid or interrupts me tonight, he knows I'm going to single him out by hitting a one-liner between his teeth, although the guy is unbelievable.
Well, I appreciate that thing. No, here's the thing. The one thing, JB, you've upgraded your chair, I see. So very nice. Love it.
Yes. Whole new setup. New studio put in.
Yeah.
Over the Christmas holiday, I had the elves putting together the studio.
Beautiful. Yeah, it looks really good stuff. I like what you did there, Joe. I'm impressed.
Thank you.
And last but not least, I have to say she's the prettiest one of us all. And she's pretty darn smart, too. There's more to this girl than meets the eye, boy. She's a load full of positivity and everything we stand for at the network, Candy.
Well, hello, guys. Thanks for letting me join in.
Well, we're glad to have you, let me tell you. And, at least I know that we have some strong topics, and I have a feeling we're going to set the Jacob mindset on fire. So, anything stupid, he's going to be challenged.
I say something stupid all the time. It doesn't stop me.
Well, I'll tell you one thing about you, though, Jacob. At least you're consistent.
Wow. He just called you stupid, Jacob.
Oh, I didn't. All I said, he called himself stupid, and I just agreed with it.
He just agreed with it.
Exactly. It means he called you stupid.
Yeah.
Well,
but I can give it back. I can give 4 back. I can give 4 back like nothing, so I know better.
Oh, that's right. Hey, you know what? You got to be tough to work with us anyways. We're out there making sure that we know what we're talking about. So one thing I learned in sales, if somebody, you have an objection, you have to overcome it, or what we learn in argumentation is you refute and attack. And and rebuttal, and rebuttal means rebuild. So with that said, I don't have to rebuild. I'm just going to build, and I'll give you an overview of what we're talking about tonight. We're going to talk about some interesting stats pertaining to Alabama football, the Southeastern Conference, Jordan Love. Okay, we have Carolina's bad boy, and of course, we're going to talk about the World Darts Championship. And when I tell Ian Hill that I'm willing to go different, Ian, I'm going to tell you, if you're watching this show, okay, Ian, okay, World Darts Championship. Now, I know you're dealing with pickleball and all these, but I search for everything. And we'll go over some additional top headlines as well, time permitting. With that said, let's get to the first topic. For the first time since 2008, players who have played their entire career at Alabama will leave without a national championship. Also, Alabama won't reach number one in the AP poll in a season for the first time since 2001. That was Nick Saban's first year. All right. Well, you know what? We'll start from top to bottom. Jacob Christner, what's your take?
Well, you know something, the only thing I can think about is that was just a very, 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 very stupid call at the end. Very stupid. Just especially when a couple of weeks ago we saw DeMilrow throw a 30-yarder in the corner of the end zone with no time left against Auburn. You know, just to be able to do something like this. We know he can throw the ball. So what does Bill O'Brien do? He gives them a run draw play when they already had everything stuffed. And it's like, that's the big thing. And it's like, that's a safe bet. That's a safe kind of thing. When it's the end zone, you take the shot. And those were the things. As far as Alabama goes, we're going to hear people. You don't know what you're going to hear. You're going to hear people go, Saban's out. I mean, Saban's lost it. Yeah, he made a playoff again. You know, and until he is unless he is Bear Bryant, and I love Bear Bryant. I love his legacy. Unless he's going to the Holiday Bowl at the end, trying to get a 6th win and win in the 4th quarter, he's not that thing. He hasn't lost anything. People are just so used to his legacy, Saban's legacy, and all those titles. So he hasn't lost anything. It's just a stupid play. And Michigan played the game of their life.
Well, let me point out one thing, okay, Jacob, just so we have a little clarification on the offensive coordinator. The offensive coordinator for Alabama is Tommy Rees, and Bill O'Brien.
You're right. You're
right. The dumpster fire at New England probably next week at this
You're
time.
right. You're right. I'm just mistaken.
No, that's okay. It's no big deal. I'm just letting you know that Tommy Rees is doing it. No big deal.
The only reason I was thinking Bill O'Brien's because that play looked like a Bill O'Brien play. It looked old school. What is a young guy like Tommy Rees doing with that play?
Well, I don't know, but here's another little food for thought about Bill O'Brien. He didn't want Milroe to even be the quarterback, wanted to play another position, and this kid here, Milroe, proved him wrong. So it just shows you what you got there, putting in perspective, and we'll move it over to George Eichhorn. Okay, you know what the topic is. Go ahead and address it.
Well, yeah, I mean, the bar is high. The bar is very high if you're an Alabama fan, alumni, supporter, whatever. And I certainly understand their frustration. They're not used to losing. They're not used to losing in the championship semifinals or the finals. Yeah, they didn't get there this year, but they did make the finals. And Jacob brought up a good point. I mean, they're such talent and such recruiting geniuses that they're always going to want to win it all. I mean, that's the mentality. Not to say it's not the mentality of a Jim Harbaugh or any other coach, because it is. Obviously, you want to be the best of the best. But I think that Alabama really has nothing to be ashamed of. They rallied from a season that I thought was on the ropes. I really did. I didn't think there was any way halfway through the NCAA season that Alabama would be in the Final Four. But all that being said, I agree. I agree wholeheartedly, Jacob. That was not the right play to call. And Nick Saban's got to take ultimate responsibility for that, not his coaches. Then he will. But yeah, that was a silly play. You don't do that kind of play. You knew Michigan they're like animals on that line, and they're out to get blood, so to speak. They were trained. In fact, that was one of the things that Harbaugh drilled into them and their coaching staff. To get to the next level, they had to be like savages on the line, both offensively and defensively. So yeah, you played right into that. But like I said, the bar is always high for Alabama. They had a good season. I know they want to win it all, but it's not going to happen this time. But they'll be back. 9 players leaving for the portal, though, I heard today. 9 Alabama players. So here we go again. The
That doesn't matter to him.
portal.
Well, you know what, Jacob? It might mean more than you think to him. I'm going to get to that after everybody speaks.
Okay, Scott,
But-
you pick it up
but-
after that. Okay.
Yeah, no, but that's a good point. But the main thing is this. I have a vested interest in this thing because the University of South Florida only lost 17-3 in the front of 65,000 at Raymond James Stadium, and everybody wondered what Alabama was like, and that's when they benched their quarterbacks until they came to their senses to put Milroe in. So, but that's a good point. I'm going to comment on it after Joe and Candy are done. So go ahead, Joe.
Listen, first of all, Nick Saban, for the last 20 years, that was a little different. The transfer portal is different today than it was in 2005, 2010, 2015. So it's a different game. So, yes, it may be a little bit past what Saban's used to. He'll adapt, though, because he's a great coach. So, he'll have some down years. But, Michigan was the better team. I think Georgia was the better team. They just played Alabama on the wrong day. Saban's a great coach. He gets the most out of his players. They'll be back, and they're going to, now with the playoffs at 12, pencil them in every year. They'll have a shot every year. Who cares? It's a waste. They're going to be there consistently. But, more importantly, what I noticed, and I was thinking about this today when I was doing the J&J Sports Express, where we do the NFL picks for the week, we may have history this year that Harbaugh beat Saban. We may get the first time that two brothers win the college football championship and the Super Bowl. Now, granted, there's a lot more work that has to be done by the Ravens, but Michigan's only got to win one more game, and they're the favorite in that game. But the Ravens got the 1 seed, so this could be historic. They did play each other in a Super Bowl. They did coach against each other in the Super Bowl, but this has never been seen before. It's be interesting to see.
Yeah, I've read about that all week, Joe. I'm glad you brought it up tonight. Good stuff. Think about it. John Harbaugh has a chance to win it all. He's going to have Lamar Jackson, who, by the way, they are going to rest this weekend, which I think is a smart move, anyways. Why go ahead and play a guy when when there's nothing hanging in the balance? You've already won the AFC North, I believe, is that what they playing over there? And
Yeah.
of course, right. So they play there. And they get the number 1 seed throughout. So that's a great point. I've seen that written about, but the fact that you addressed tonight is really good. Good stuff, Joe. All right,
Thanks.
Candy.
Okay, so Nick Saban, he has had so many different coaches underneath him besides players underneath him. We were talking a little bit about this on the Chick show last night, is that Alabama is one of those schools that is just known for college football, and Nick Saban. And who doesn't want, as a young high school or younger player, who doesn't want to go play for a Nick Saban with all the championships he's had, with all the pedigree that he has? So these young players all want to go play for Nick Saban because they want to be competitive. They want the best chance. And how many NFL players has he produced? He's produced a ton. Yes, did they not have their best year? I would say for sure. If you look at a lot of the games, they were a lot closer than what they have been in the past. But I have to give kudos to the college football playoff committee because honestly, those games the other night were on par. They were really close. They were competitive. They weren't blowouts like we've seen in some of the past years with all the criticism. And I get, because I've heard a lot of people complain, I live in Florida. A lot of people complain Florida State wasn't in there. But would have Florida State been competitive with any of those 4 teams that played? And yes, I get that Florida State played in a bowl game and they played horrible. They didn't have the same amount of people. But even if they would have had all of their people, would they have been competitive with those 4 teams and the games that we saw? Because we really were entertained. I will tell you, I was entertained. I wanted to watch the football games, and you wanted to watch it from beginning to end. So who won? The fans won, the colleges won, college football won and got it right.
All right, now let me pick up on George's point. George said, what, 9 went into the portal. Is that correct? All right.
Yeah.
Here's what's going to happen. Had Nick Saban and won it all this year, he would have retired. Nothing like going out on top. I really truly believe that. To me, he would have retired. I think where he's ultimately going to get tired of it, and we've seen it happen in college basketball. Or how many coaches did you see get out of it? Mike Krzyzewski left when he had to go when the times were changing so much. Roy
Boeheim,
Williams, pardon me.
Boeheim.
Yeah, Jim
Yep.
Boeheim, and of course we had Roy Williams. So my point is this, okay? Alabama, after they lost, they went out there and said we need some money from our NIL people. So what will subsequently burn out Nick Saban is when it's more trouble than it's worth. He has to worry about transfer portals and not enough NIL money. I can tell you right now, I have a feeling his coaching days will be over. Period. All right. We'll stay with the Southeastern Conference because it isn't represented in the national championship for the first time since 2014, and it's the first time since 2018 that there won't be an SEC team winning it all. So, all right. With that said, JB, I'll let you lead off of this.
About time there's some change, but once again, the committee was wrong. The wrong teams were in the playoffs. I could care less that Alabama beat Georgia. Georgia was a much better team. If we want to go with the better team thing, then we left Florida State out. So that would be the first one. And if we're not saying the better team, then Florida State should be in because they won their conference and didn't lose a game. So it could be one or the other. It can't be both. We've had two SEC teams in before where Bama beat Georgia, I believe, or the other way around, way back, and they both got in. So they could have put the two SEC teams in, but I don't know who you'd leave out. The games were thoroughly entertaining. I'm glad the SEC isn't in the championship game because this was a year that they were actually down. This was not the best year by the conference. So it's good to see, especially that's the last year for the Pac-12. It'd be historic to see them win it in the last year of the conference. I think Michigan wins either way, but there's a lot of great storylines, but I still think Georgia and Florida State would have been the two teams that deserve to be there.
Fair enough. Okay. We'll turn over to Jacob.
One of the things about it is I get the feeling that the playoff committee is getting the people used to the idea of no SEC champion. Because think about this for 1 second. But you had Alabama, and Alabama could have easily done it, but they won't. But one of the things that you would see is now that you're going to have 972 teams in the B1G, and stuff like that, and then everybody else, like probably three conferences, like the simmering down or going away. It's going to be such a different time. So the SEC is going to have the SEC can't just go off their name anymore. There's going to be so much, and Washington proved they belonged. So they're leaving the Pac-12, and it's going. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So one of the big things is I think the SEC, just because of all their years of winning, and they won so much. We can say since 2015, 2018, it's been like 2009 since they're just constant. So it's going to be that way. And it's like now the SEC is not going to go in on their name anymore. They're going to have to go work. They're going to a 12-man. They're going to a 12 team. They're probably going to get the hardest challenges. It's just because it's going to be their reputation from the past. So like you want to win it now, you're going to earn it.
Good point. Okay, we'll turn over to George.
Well, I don't shed any tears. I mean, the SEC has been around for so long and been such a prominent player in this college football championship series that it's a refreshing for me personally to see the Pac-12 and the Big Ten. It's like the old familiar Rose Bowl when we all had our eyes glued to the television set at 5 p.m. Eastern time on New Year's Day. And lo and behold, we had that same scenario with Michigan playing Alabama, of course, in Pasadena. But I think this is exciting for not only the Pac-12, but excited for all conferences, because the Big Ten and the Pac-12 made it. It's going to be really a good game. It really is. And I shed no tears for the SEC. Like you said, Joe, I mean, they've had their run and they've been in there so many times. And and probably, I agree, Georgia for sure should have been in there. And now, next year is going to be the expansion. So there's going to be less belly aching, less crying about my team not getting in and yours did because of the expanded field. There'll always be some complaints, that, even with 12. But I think they need to control and keep the Bulls as viable as they can. And that's a whole nother subject. But I really think that having the national championship is great, but you also got to keep the Bulls going because Bulls draw 25 to 45,000 people for every one of those bowl games. And hats off to ESPN because they put a lot of money forward and televise 95% of those games themselves. So that being said, Scott, I'm all for it. Sorry, SEC. This just wasn't your year.
Okay, I'll turn over to Candy.
Okay, so it's no surprise that I'm a Big Ten girl, but so am I sad that the SEC isn't in there? Oh, I mean, let's face it, they've won 13 of the last 17 national championships in football. Alabama's won 6 of those 13. That's just too much. Like, I think I like more parity. I like seeing people that haven't been in there. I like seeing less dominance of one team, just like the NFL. I like more parity. I like to see other teams win it, other schools win it. Next year is going to be 12. We talked a little bit about on the Chicks show, on Chicks and Salsa. We talked about the fact that the transfer portal, in my opinion, should not open until after these bowl games because I think so many of them don't play unless they're playing for a national championship. They don't play in these games. And then these games aren't the same. They're not as competitive. And I miss that. I miss the fact that everybody was playing. It was the same team. So I really think the transfer portal does us harm by opening up in December. I think it should wait till after the bowl games. But that's just my opinion. And that probably is a debate that we could talk about for a long time.
I don't think it's as much of a debate as you think it is. And I'll tell you why I say that. Because number one, I think you're totally on point. Number two, the biggest thing that you have to understand is the NCAA is begging for help from Congress to try to get this mess straightened out, and Congress doesn't want to get involved. So the NCAA looks like a bunch of chickens between their legs is what they have because they don't know what they're going to do. You've got a problem. Everybody understands name, image, and likeness, okay? And you get that. And the transfer portal has gotten out of control. We have over 1,500 to 2,000 students in. How many are going to end up landing big spots? And then the other ones are going to be stuck. So I don't think you're way out of line there. I think you're more on target than you think. But when you also look at the dynamics of the fact that Washington and Michigan are playing for the national title, guess what? They're going to see each other again in the fall, aren't they? And you know what? The only tug of war you're going to have will be between CBS and NBC. Who's going to get that game? So now we have a pseudo Big Ten championship game next year after we already have a decisive national championship game in a matter of days, right? So it'll be interesting. It really is. And I think you're right, Candy. This is all parody if I've ever seen. The problem is the SEC can't handle it. Guys like Dabo Swinney can't handle it. They had a down year as well, too. I mean, we watched Miami beat Clemson, and Dabo Swinney used to be the king of that castle. Everybody was a dirty rascal, right? Well, you know what? Having a tough year, and all of a sudden you're not trying to change how business should be conducted. So, I mean, the 12 teams is the right team, and I don't think they're going to mess with it anymore. I think 12 is enough, but there's so many interesting dynamics. But the reality is Congress doesn't want to get involved. They say, NCAA, you got to figure out your own business, and that's all there is to it. So,
the cartel gets to operate without a problem because that's what the NCAA is. It's a cartel.
Exactly.
Might as well be the mafia. It's a disgusting business practice that exploits young men. And it's done that for how long? Young men and women.
Right.
That they make money off the backs of these kids. Coaches were able to leave anytime they chose, go get another job. Meanwhile, if you were the 6'4" center from whatever school and your coach left, you were stuck sitting out a year and you if you didn't want to play for the new coach or if he didn't like what you did and you were stuck. So the NCAA, they have a lot of problems. It's not a well-run organization. It's all about making money. It's not about the student athletes. It never has been.
JB, did you say a 6'4" center wouldn't win 1956?
Football, Jacob. Football. Not basketball.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So
Because football runs the world in the
True,
NCAA.
I've got a couple news headlines I want to mention before we go any further in this show. Number one, Blake Corum. When Blake Corum scores a touchdown, the University of Michigan is 31-0. So that's a pretty interesting note that people should go out there and take note going into Monday's game. Secondly, on this day in 1973, 51 years ago, George Steinbrenner bought the Yankees from CBS for $10 million. The most recent valuation for the Bronx Bombers, $7.1 billion. If that isn't a good ROI, return on investment, then tell me what one is, because that's why the Yankees can buy anybody they want. Of course, the Dodgers can too, but that's another topic for another day. So let me repeat, on this day in 1973, 51 years ago, George Steinbrenner buys the Yankees from CBS for $10 million, and the most recent valuation is $7.1 billion. All right. With that said, okay, we go to the debate of the night segment, okay? And this is the segment that we get to go ahead and rile up Jacob Christner. And
Sweet.
anybody is free to go ahead and participate after Candy hammers him and he hammers back. You know, Candy's a sweet person. We know that. But I'll tell you one thing about that chick, though. She told me earlier that, yeah, you know, the girls want her to step up and stop them from talking a little bit too much, right? Because this girl that I have is packed with knowledge and she's packed with ability. And let's forget about who she learned from, because you want to learn good habits and bad habits, but she's way prettier than I am. All you have to do is ask my brother Lonnie. He always watches her shows anyways. So with that said, let's get lovely on this subject with Jordan Love has thrown more yards than any Bears QB in a single season in franchise history. I know this is killing you, Jake.
It's not killing me. I'm laughing.
Yeah, I know. All right. Love in 2023 has 3,843 passing yards, while the Bears' all-time record is 38. So, you know, we have some 4-digit lottery numbers here, but, you know, those are the hard, cold facts. And now Jake Christner, they're your team.
There is nothing you're going to get me to like make me humiliated on something like this. It's like the only thing I can say is I was wrong in Love. I mean, I will say it. I started at the beginning. You heard me what I said. I was wrong on the guy just because I saw him in college and he just wasn't that good. He was very, very mistake prone. But the biggest thing about it is, you know what I keep forgetting in the middle of all this? And I'll say this, Candy. It matters with coaching. It matters with coaching. Because you're looking at, like, for instance, I'm just using an example, Joe Flacco, horrible with the Jets, comes straight in on the Cleveland, you're with a real coach with everything, with the system, bam, playoffs now. So coaching matters. Jordan Love fell in with a great coach, and they got him off of his mistakes. He has some flaws at times, but he's getting better and better. As far as the Bears go, I mean, part of the reason of everything I say with Justin Fields in the first place, because 3 years ago when they got him off, I call it the emotional nitwit. They got him off emotional nitwit. It's like you didn't change up your coaching staff. You didn't change anything. You didn't build around him, really. 3 years in, you finally get DJ Moore, finally. But then you still are missing half of a line. He's still running for his life. They didn't get another receiver to really help him. You had Komet, but if he was hurt, then they had no tight end. So, and that's every quarterback. Cutler dealt with it. Trubisky dealt with it. Every quarterback in history with the Bears deals with it. They still think it's 1985. The only thing that's you can tell from the Packers that live old is Lambeau, and they do renovate Lambeau all the time. So that's the whole thing. The Packers thinking forward, the Bears are still in 1985.
All right. Well, Candy.
Oh boy. The Bears, what can I say? They don't have the coaching, they don't have the quarterbacks. The one thing I will say about Jordan Love, we all said in the beginning he wasn't doing well. He has young receivers, and all of that is true. But I think he has the smarts to read that he's starting to read defenses. He's starting to read where his open men are. And I think he's starting to gel with the receivers so that the receivers and him are on the same page. He's starting to know where they're going to be, how quickly they're going to get there. And when he's trying to run for his life or scramble, he's reading them better. He has not thrown, knock on wood, very many interceptions. He also has over 30 touchdowns for the year, which is more than any Chicago quarterback
Yes.
has thrown in a season, as well as yards. And if you look at his numbers compared to, let's say, Hall of Fame Aaron Rodgers in his first year, he is similar, if not beating all of Aaron Rodgers' numbers as well. So is he going to be a Hall of Fame quarterback? Time is going to tell. But I honestly think, as I've really watched and studied the game, that the quarterback position is more about smarts and reading your defense and being able to adjust to your defense. Because if you can't adjust to your defense, you're throwing interceptions, you're being picked off, you're throwing balls not high enough over your offensive line and they're being batted down, you're getting sacked. And it's about knowing when to take a sack and when you can't afford to take a sack. So you really have to play with smarts. Football smarts is what I'll say. And Jordan Love is doing better than he was at the beginning of the season. Is he the same caliber as some of the other quarterbacks? No, not yet. But I would say he's better than, I'd say at least a third of the quarterbacks in the league right now, at least.
All right. The only thing I'm going to add to that, and Candy touched on just about everything I was going to say, but I figured this was really designed for her and Jacob, and the rest of us will say a thing or two, is Jordan Love sat behind Aaron Rodgers. And I think that in a instant gratification league, would you expect your rookie to go on there? I think the best way to groom a quarterback without losing his confidence is by letting him sit behind a veteran. And that's exactly what he did. The New York Jets were hoping that Zach Wilson could sit behind Rodgers another year. Unfortunately, it didn't work out because Rodgers suffered that season-ending injury at the beginning. So, again, Love's a beneficiary of being able to sit back, learn the game behind him, just like Rodgers did with Brett Favre. So there's a history in Green Bay where they're patient with their quarterbacks while other ones have to just put them in there and hope that they don't lose their confidence.
I know.
Zach Wilson will do well somewhere else, I can tell you, just not with the Jets, because he was, like you guys say, coaching matters. So more power to Love that he was able to hang in there and learn behind Rodgers. And I think the upside with Jordan Love is extremely high. And just think they end up probably have as many wins as last year's Packers team did. And we're the New York Jets with Rodgers. Don't ask. All right, we'll turn over to Joe. Some thoughts.
So a couple of things. First of all, the offensive game has changed. So to say that Jordan Love has more passing yards than any Bears quarterback, although it's accurate, we're really only talking about the last 15, 17 years. And that would be the time frame. And the Bears really didn't have anyone that was lights out during that time period. But kudos to Jordan Love. He's exceeding everyone's expectation. But the key to why he's doing that, LaFleur. Last year, when Aaron Rodgers was a time bomb in Green Bay, and they had to put Jordan Love in when he got hurt a couple of games, he was horrible. But what did LaFleur do? He kept the team together when Rodgers didn't want to practice, didn't want to do anything. When he would say whatever in the press, LaFleur kept the team together, and they had a really good year. They didn't make the playoffs, but they were close. This year, Love finally got the chance to start, shook off all the garbage from last year from his couple of starts, said, you know what, I'm going to go out there and play. And what happens with that? How does he become a different quarterback? confidence and good coaching. LaFleur got him to the point where he's a more confident quarterback. It's not easy to come in after somebody great. Jacob's going to talk after me. It's going to be hard. It's not going to be easy to make the points like I made them. I get it, So, but no, in all seriousness, it was, I'm sure, a tough situation to be thrown in there last year. You can't go by that. Jordan Love has talent. LaFleur is a very good coach. He's proved it last year. He proved it again this year. Unfortunately, I think the pressure this week's going to be a bit much for Love. So I don't see them making the playoffs, but both teams way above anything that anybody would have expected. They both had, I would say, above average years, and they both have something to build on going into next year. That at least there's a future.
Well, I'll tell you this. There was a time when I thought Dan Marino's record was unbreakable, but boy, the new NFL has shoved Dan down the line. I thought the quarterback that has ever had the best release that I've ever seen in any era is Dan Marino's quick release was just unbelievable. One way to avoid sack, get rid of the ball quick and know what you got to do.
Yeah, how many yards do you think Marino would have, at this
6,000.
Easy.
I would say 90,000 the way he threw the football.
Yeah, so I mean, just
90,
a totally
95.
different
game. Here's the thing. We talked about this on Pundit. We really did. We had this, a couple weeks ago, Scott. We talked about the NFL, with the quarterbacks and the coaching, and how some of them, and George knows this also, how some of them will just burn through these kids' confidence.
Right.
There was a video of let's see, Zach Wilson at BYU leaping in the air, someone trying to spear him, and he was big enough just to knock the guy down from the air, and just kind of trash talk him while he did it. And then they showed a bunch of ones where he threw 60 yards like nothing. All of a sudden now he is a joke, and it's a joke to the league. And I'm like, where does that happen? And it's what did I say from the beginning, Candy? I was saying I thought Love was screwed. I thought the Bears would finally break that. I thought all those. I thought Love was horrible. He played a couple of games in those 3 years and didn't come close to winning. I thought this is terrible. It just shows that it's coaching. Coaching also means when someone's having a bad game, they keep with them. They don't do what Sean Payton did to Russell Wilson on the set and everything. It's yeah, you made this. We're going to go work on this, and we're going to get, and it's he kept with Love the whole time. They were 2-6, kept with him. And it's that's what good coaching does. And it's that's the biggest thing. Remember, I do not think at all it's between injury and anything like that. I think this year's the first time he's played 60 games in a row, Justin Fields. At once, whether it's injury or being sat or any of that stuff. I think it's the first time he's played 6 in a row. And it's and that's the big thing with it is there isn't a real consistency with him. He never has the coaching. Put him on with Brian Daboll. I'm just going to say that's JB. Put him with Brian Daboll. Put him with any coach that is a guru. Put him anywhere. He will be a monster. I just believe it.
I do too. All right, we'll turn over to George. He's been waiting, so go ahead, George.
Well, I don't have that much more to add. A couple of things I look at in a quarterback, especially a young quarterback who's developing, is the fact that he has 6 targets with 300 or more yards so far this season. I think that's a very good stat. He's distributing the ball very well, and I think that Jordan's had a great year. Much stronger year than probably most people expected. And he's dished out 10 different teammates for touchdowns. And that says a lot also. So he's finding different targets. He's not just relying on 1 or 2 guys to provide the offense. And receiving yards are being distributed very well, very equally with Green Bay right now, and the touchdowns as well. I think he has a great future ahead of him. I'm not going to compare him to Chicago Bears quarterbacks because it's a bit of a stretch, only in the fact that I still have a lot of hope for the Bears as well. But no, I think Green Bay's had a really good year, and if whether they make the playoffs or not, of course they want to make it, but this has been a solid year for him, and I do I do think he's well coached, obviously, up at Green Bay as well.
Okay. Go ahead,
I would like
Candy.
to add one last little point because George, you reminded me of something. One of the points that they were talking about with Jordan is the fact that he has distributed it to, like you said, 10 different receivers have gotten touchdowns. He does not have a prime or key receiver that is a veteran that is making a lot of money. And they have said that that is probably the best thing for a rookie because you don't have someone that's saying, I have to have the ball. I have to have the ball. You got to throw me the ball. You got to throw me the ball. I'm the one that you have to do it. That they're working by a committee. And so there isn't that added pressure of you always need to look for one person first. And I think that that happens in some of the other NFL teams. I mean, let's face it. We all know Devontae Adams used to play for the Packers. Look how many times he said, "You're not throwing me. I'm not getting the ball enough. I'm not getting the ball. I'm the receiver you need to be throwing to." Jordan Love does not have that added pressure, which I think has made a big difference as well.
Very
Thanks,
good.
Scott.
Thanks. Well, cover this one really well. So guess what? We're going to go from Green Bay down to Carolina and talk about Carolina's bad boy. No, I'm not talking about the Detroit bad boys. Carolina's bad boy. Okay. The NFL has fined Panthers chairman David Tepper $300,000 for unacceptable conduct during Sunday's game, throwing a drink at fans in Jacksonville. My. Let me break down some really silly stats here about this whole thing. Okay, ready for this? Okay, let's see. I got it on. Hey, you know what, folks? I have two phones. What a beautiful thing here. You know, one for videos and all the good stuff. And then we're going to go ahead and talk about what this fine really amounts to. Okay. But what this fine amounts to is the equivalent of fining the average American $1.77. My goodness, I can even count that high. All right. So with that said, okay, we're going to turn it over to Jacob Christner. After all you need to go up I-85 to dig up this story. So do it, Jacob.
Oh, Lord.
David Tepper. And if you're longer than most people, I have to give you a head start anyways.
Let me tell you this part here. Take one look at the guy, and he looks like the evil guy on a Hallmark movie. You know, just take a look at his face, just everything. He's got that smirk. You are fired. And it's that Christmas Carol look, that horrible and a really cheap movie. That's what he looks like. Only at the end, they start smiling. They start smiling at the end and are all happy, and it's a happy ending. David Tepper's not that guy. David Tepper's a terrible human being. And then him doing that feels like the least of what he would want to do in the first place. Plus the fact he says, "Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just so passionate about the game." He has basically given away for nothing DJ Moore and Christian McCaffrey. He doesn't have a draft pick. He's 31 and 65 in his, since he's taken over. I mean, he's a terrible owner. He's a terrible human being, terrible man. And that's one of the biggest problems with something like these is the fact that only thing that you're going to see with something like this is right now, unless he has done anything. And I know they're going to try to find tapes of him. They're going to try to find any kind of evidence to get him out, just kind of like Richardson in the first place, what they did with him. That's the one way. Other than that, being a jerk doesn't get you out of the league. But truthfully, Carolina needs him out before they can get anywhere.
Well, Candy, you talked about it last night on Chicks and Salsa. Why don't you go ahead and not only mention what you mentioned on that show, but if you have any new things that have entered your mind 24 hours later after you spoke on their broadcast.
So it was coming out. Well, did he throw it at a fan? Did he not throw it at a fan? I don't care if he threw it at a fan or not. I'm passionate, but you represent the NFL. You are an owner of a team with the NFL. There are a lot of youngsters that look up to you that would love to be in your shoes. Now, everybody's like, "Oh, well, he shouldn't have done that." Here's the part of his statement. that leads me to believe that yes, he was throwing it at a fan, because so many people thought, oh, well, maybe he just threw it in passion. I should have let the NFL stadium security handle any issues that arose. I respect the NFL's code of conduct and accept the league's discipline for my behavior. Well, yeah, because it cost you what? Like Scott said, it was $1.77 for most of us. That 300,000 is a drop in the bucket for you. You need to act responsibly when you are in it's a business. I get it, and you own them, but that doesn't give you the right to act however you like to. Just because you were upset because someone threw an interception and it wasn't going the way you wanted it to go. You know what? That's life. We all need to learn that that's life, and you need to learn how to control your temper and control your actions. And you need to, yes, I'm going to hold you to a higher level because you are an owner of this business. And so many eyes are on you these days, especially. You cannot get away with things like that. You might have been able to 20, 30 years ago, but everybody's got cameras now on their phone. Everybody's recording things. Set a better example or get out.
All right, George Eichhorn.
All right. Well, yeah, I mean, this guy means bad news, okay? I would never see William Clay Ford, who owned the Detroit Lions during some really rough years and tough years, do something as obnoxious as that. Nor would I expect George Halas or, Paul Brown or any of the famous owners of all time. It's just childish. And, I know it's a drop in the bucket to him, $300,000, but the point of the matter is that you embarrassed yourself, you embarrassed your franchise, and you are looking at a situation where who would want to come there if you act like that, okay? You want Ben from the Lions, our offensive coordinator? You want to interview him again? Well, he's going to have second thoughts, okay, about maybe coming to your club. You've gone through so many head coaches, so many players, so many assistant coaches, so many quarterbacks, on and on. If you want to improve that franchise, it starts with you and your behavior. And as far as I know, I would vote too to get him out of the league if I had a vote, because there's no reason for this kind of behavior from this man right now. None at all.
Okay, at least Joe.
So, I mean, let's think about this, right? There's no consequences in any of this punishment. So what's the point? Just to say we did something? The NFL needs to do better. Secondly, whether it's a fan of your team or another team, without them, your league is nothing. If you don't have fans, you don't have anything. Who's watching the games? Who's buying the products that are from the sponsors? I don't care if your team's 0-1,000. You still need the fans. So to go out there and do that, it shows what type of person you are. There's nothing that could have been said that was that bad to make you throw a drink on somebody. I've never thrown a drink on somebody in my life. There's no reason to do that. He's in a box. They were outside. Get security if something was said that you were that unhappy about. You're going to take a drink and throw it on somebody? What are we, 2 years old? And you're supposed to be the guy that's in charge of your team. You own this team. It's a joke. A person like that doesn't belong to be an owner of a professional sports team, because you have to have some sort of dignity, and you have to be able to lead by example. I really have nothing more to say. It's just pathetic.
And JB, I wanted to real quick. I wanted to say this. I say what I say about fans all the time, but you're right. Have to have them. We had that one year we had no fans. You would think that would be a perfect dream for me. You know what I'm saying? We watched the thing, nobody there. No, it's horrible. It's a horrible atmosphere. You need them. You need them. You need everything. As much as they drive me nuts, that might be my own version of an emotional nitwit. I get mad in the moment when I see the ones being stupid, but you need them. And you're correct on that. We need them to pay the tickets to get in, to get the merchandise, to get all that, and get the excitement going. And I guess the stupid goes with the territory, but you have to have them in the end. And it's like they're going to lose a lot of them if Tepper stays around. That's just the thing.
Well, let's not lose sight of the fact that Tepper got rid of Frank Reich even last year, though Frank might eventually thank him at the end. He's still going to get paid for a while anyways, not do anything. But the reality is Paul Feinbaum went out there today and said that Tepper is a clown. Now, I'm sure he was being very nice about it, calling him a clown, because I'm sure many other people have said a whole lot worse about him. But let's get real here. You're throwing a drink on some fans because they weren't buying your Kool-Aid. Give me a break. So I'm with you. You know, another bad owner to go along with Dan Snyder. But this is what we have. You know, we can't screen owners enough bad enough. This guy seems to be a very good businessman, but boy, when it comes to a sports owner, he's absolutely awful. A couple more things I want to get to. First of all, Scotty Scheffler has been voted, Player of the Year over Masters champion John Rahm. A player vote that raises questions of whether Rahm was penalized for defecting to Live Golf. Just news information. Our final topic of the night goes from, I call it the Ian Hill special, okay? And I repeat, the Ian Hill special. Let's be different, right, Mr. Hill? You got it. Okay, kudos to 16-year-old Luke Littler for becoming the youngest to ever reach a World Darts Championship. All we do in our business is play darts looking to find what topics are good. But guess what? Some of these people play it for real. Of course, you know, some of them buy it with the actual darts or the magnets. But so, George, how about that? Luke Littler has made it famous on our broadcast because he's a darts guy.
Yeah. It's really interesting because I saw a feature on NBC in the last day or so about him, and nobody thought he would get to that point. And they're making banners up and scarves up with his name on, and he's got his own little fan club and cheering section there, and he surprised the heck out of the dart world in that competition. He finished second, I believe, overall. I think that's what they said. But anyways, nobody expected him to get that far. So congratulations, Luke. You did a great job, and you're putting darts right back on the map. The sports map, the entertainment map, whatever map we want to call it, falls under a different category maybe for some people. And it's like playing cards too, obviously, with some people referring that as a sport. I'm happy for him. Good going, young man. You've been practicing, I'm sure, your whole life. And what an achievement at only 16 years old. Good job.
All right, Candy.
What can you say? A 16-year-old that's competing at such a high level. Awesome. Great for him. I mean, it's nice to see youth get so involved with one sport and perfect their craft and have fun with it. Kudos to him. May he have a good career in darts. Do I follow it as much? No. Did I used to play darts? Sure. Was it fun? Of course. So kudos to him. Good job.
All right, turn it over to Joe.
We're talking about darts.
You bet.
Seriously? At a 16-year-old? A 16-year-old? Listen, back in the day when we had three guys on Sideline Sports before we added Dave, we used to talk about, what's that stupid game with the bean bag? You throw it in a hole, cornhole. That's what it's called. This ain't sports. Keep that. Get it out of here. Who cares? You know what? I'll go out there, play darts against the kid. I'll beat him. I don't care. We're not talking darts.
Oh, I'll tell you what. So here we go on live broadcast here that JB Ellis is going out on the limb and challenging a darts guy. Well, you know what, JB
Let's
Ellis?
make it happen.
If you're going to go out there and get that animated for some, I'm going to incorporate more darts and cornhole stuff in here just so you can challenge everybody on the planet. How's that sound?
That sounds like that. You know, that sounded awful. That sounds like something you get on Epstein's Island.
Well, that may
That
be.
sounded horrible.
But you know what? Tonight is on Sports Exchange Island. Okay?
Yeah.
Listen,
so
I can go throw some darts and hit the little bullseye I've done it before. It can't be serious. It's darts. Come on. Good for him. He's 16. That's phenomenal. I'm sure he feels great. Hope he has a great life. I hope he learns from his success and handles it well. Hopefully he has good parents and management and they keep him grounded. Great story, but darts? Come on.
Well, you know what, Joe, if I remember right, because I know at times I tend to lose my memory, okay, that all these good feel good stories happen in Christmas. Well, guess what, Joe? Okay, today happens to be January 3rd, 2024. It'll take a few more days for me to get used to 2024. We don't have to save all these feel good stories for Christmas. We can start off the year on a positive note, right? Right, Joe?
Telling you, let's set up the match. We call it a
Let's
match
do
in
it.
darts. Is it a match?
Yeah, let's
I
do it.
believe.
I'll tell you what. Here's the
Let's do it
thing.
for charity.
I'm going to
Let's do it
issue
for
a
charity.
challenge here. I'll tell you what. You go ahead and set this match up, and I'll do the play-by-play for it. Is that fair enough?
I listen. I've never heard of a darts thing, except if you go to the bar and get a couple of beers. So you contact his people, tell them anywhere, anytime, as long as they pay for me to get there. I will go and beat the kid, and we'll do it for charity. We'll put it on some pay-per-view. Matter of fact, NGBN sneak peek coming January 29th. Make sure you're looking out for that. But we'll put it on there as a pay-per-view. And when I beat the kid, they take care of the charity. Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. Well, we'll have to talk to Mr. Hill and let him know that, the Motor City Mad Mouth brought it up there, and now we have a challenge to launch the network. All right.
Hey, JB, he's 16 and looks about 45, so you can get him beers with pretty safe take because they're not going to take his ID. So,
right, so
he'll get it.
So I'll just say this: more power to the kid. I hope he does well. So with that said, we only have about a minute or so to go. So let's go to the scaled down version. JB, let everybody know how they can get a hold of you.
JB_ the program on X, Sideline Sports every Tuesday, 8:30. Great show, guys. Enjoyed it. Happy New Year.
And great camera. I love your new equipment. All right, George
Thank
Icorn. You don't have to mention every 9 million shows that you've been on. Just keep it simple, stupid, or
you can find me on the South Florida Tribune under the Motor City Tribune banner. I write sports and cover sports in Michigan and Detroit, and we got two winners here, the Lions and the Wolverines. You can reach me on gicorn@yahoo.com and also find me on Twitter, known as X to some people, at SandGSports99. Great show.
All right, Jacob, give me the cliff notes.
5 days a week on Sideline and South Florida Tribune. I have now been cast in a movie, 10 Toes Down, coming in February. And I do some writings. I do some different things all along the way.
All right, Candy, you can speak for me. Okay, give it out there.
Well, the first thing I want to do is I do want to say rest in peace, Herb Cole. You were a pioneer for the Bucks, and you really did awesome. You were a senator. You led by example. You built the Cole Center for University of Wisconsin-Madison, and you will be greatly missed. But you can find South Florida Tribune. Subscribe to us, share us, like us. Go to our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. If you like to listen to podcasts, you can catch us on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, or wherever you catch your podcast. If you want to advertise, call Scott 954-304-4941. Please hit that red subscribe button. This show is going to be airing on NGBTN TV coming in the end of January. Watch for more details. We're really excited. The other thing is Scott has a book out. Let's go out there. It's on Amazon or Kindle. Go out and get it.
All right. Well, that does it for us. So on behalf of myself, Candy Abling, JB Ellis, George Icorn, and Jacob Christner, we want to thank you very much for joining us. And tomorrow night we have the Pundits Fund It beginning around 7:30 Eastern time. There you go. Glad you could be with us.
Thanks.